This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning, Bahamas. You're tuned into 96.9 FM. Today is Wednesday, April the 7th, 2021, and you're on the clock with Erin Greene. On the clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Today's show is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. And throughout the show, I will share some information on their real property tax forgiveness program. Now remember, if you don't want to listen on your radio, we're streaming live audio and video on GuardianTalkRadio.com. You can also listen on TV on Cable Bahamas, Channel 969. Or download the Guardian Radio app for your Apple or Android smart devices. And listen to our audio feed or watch us on our video feed right there on the Guardian Radio app. You can text us on the Guardian Radio text line. That's 422-4796. 422-4796. And that's powered by BTC. Standard text rates apply. Or you could call us at 323-6232. That's 323-6232, 325-4316. Or 326-4259. So let me tell you what's at the top of my highlights for this morning's show. It's still April, it's still World Environment Month, and it's also still Autism Awareness Month. But some things I want to talk about. You know, in the conversation we had yesterday with my guest co-host, Mr. Darwin Thompson, when he critiqued both governments, and he used the word trash. Now, in the midst of the show, I said to him, you know, maybe I wouldn't use the word trash. Maybe I'd use more moderated language. But we spoke a little more about it after the show. And what he shared with me was that he was really trying to offer a political critique that suggested that we evenly critique both parties. Let's not get lost in this idea that one party is better than the other, when in fact it appears as if they still or they both operate with the same political culture. Right? But we talked about it. And what happened for me was I had a visceral response. I was concerned about the impact of his language on public discourse, but more importantly, I was concerned about how his commentary may be viewed by people in the political class and in the political culture. And then I realized that it was me that had the problem, not him. It was me that had the problem. You see, because I make similar commentary all the time. And here I was telling this young man, maybe don't be so brave. Maybe don't be so bold. When all of us out here saying it. And I know he's a young man, he's a husband and a father, and he has a family to take care of, right? Along with his wife on his side, because that's how they roll. And he should never be afraid or fearful that offering political critique could jeopardize his ability to support himself in his own country. Because that's what I've been doing all this time. Offering political critique, sometimes without fear and sometimes despite fear of victimization. But the most important thing is this. We need to know, and the political class and the political culture needs to know, that young Bahamians in particular and Bahamians generally are concerned about the victimization from offering political critique. How could that be when the Constitution implies, like it's inherent, that you as a citizen have an obligation to offer critique, right? That should be basic. But then I'm only 45. Well, I ain't even 45 yet. I'd be cheating on my age. I'm 44, about to be 45. And I could see, right, examples and situations where if not properly interpreted, right, or if the dynamics are not properly exposed and articulated, people could be led to believe that political victimization is real. And guess what? Many people can call me or text me and say it is real, Erin, because you only 44 and you don't know. Anyway, I want y'all young people to know, do not be afraid in your own country. Don't. Because a big gray-backed gay woman like me has taken the step to demand a space in her own country to engage all processes with the mindfulness that not every single process is there for me to engage. There are stakeholders, right, who should be prioritized in some of these discussions. But I's a Bahamian, and I should concern myself about all of it. And so should these young people, because we're going to leave them to govern the country. And they're us. We're going to leave them to take care of us. They're going to be in charge. They're going to be looking out for us when we can't keep our toddling selves on the sidewalk, when we insist on getting in our cars and driving because we don't want to ask nobody to take us nowhere. These are the people who are going to be caring for us. We have to care for them by creating an environment in which they can do what they want, what they need, and what they're obligated to do. That's our job. And guess what? I ain't got no children. I lie. There's about 7 raccoons in the bush next to me, and I'm sure they think I've adopted them. Right? And them type of children is good too. Anyway, like Nahaja Black says, I digress. I also wanted to make another note before we start the show. Listen, this matter with Reverend Julian Johnson. I am not as familiar with the law as I should be, but there is a civil alternative to the criminal charge that has been laid against him. I don't know why he's been charged, but I will say this. I also don't know why Omar Archer was given the position of Registrar of Contractors in the Ministry of Works after all of the things he said leading up to the 2017 election. I don't know why any of this is happening. I could be honest with you. I do not know why. And plenty other people don't know why either, but they deserve to know. They really, you're obligated to tell us. See, because these are the sorts of things that lead young people to fear political victimization. But it's worse than that. These are the things that lead young people to withdraw from politics entirely. And while us old heads looking at them like, y'all just lazy, don't care about nothing, this your country. No, it's not. Not according to how y'all behave and how y'all treat these young people. Right? And so I'm not really talking about Julian Johnson and Omar Archer today. Please, Mr. Omar Archer, I ain't really talking about you. I just want to know how it is that Mr. Johnson is brought up on charges and Mr. Omar Archer got a position, Registrar of Contractors. And I ain't jealous, because I want to be Registrar of Chick Johnny's. I just want to know what to do. That's all. But don't mind me, because I wasn't even talking politics. On another note, I want to say congratulations to the Guardian Easter coloring competition winners. Again, I am not jealous that you don't let me and people in my age group participate in your coloring competition. I think it's discrimination. It's ageism. But I ain't going to try fight you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find somebody to sponsor an adult coloring competition so us adults could get in on the fun too. And I hope that that's something that families did this holiday weekend. They found some coloring books. Maybe they have a printer. You print them out. And that's what you do, parents. When you get a coloring book, print the pages. Take it to work if you have to. Tell the boss you can pay him 5 cents on the dollar. Print them and give them to your children to do. And you do it with them. Anyway, like I said, I'm not jealous. I just gonna have to do something for us old heads. Also, very quickly, on the show yesterday, we had a caller who talked about his experience over the holiday weekend with the police on Wolf Road. I buck him in the road yesterday. He's a pleasant man. I mean, for the 5 seconds we spent together in traffic. The point that he made yesterday was very important, Bahamas. There is a discrepancy. There is an obvious and blatant difference in the way that we police communities. This has to change. People should not be criminalized because they are poor. People should not be criminalized because they do not have a house to control so they could do what they want in their house. These are not things to criminalize people for. I don't have enough time to talk about it right now, but I didn't get to follow up on it yesterday. I want to thank that caller for making that point. Because bougie people like me who live in the suburbs, we just forget that. And thank you for reminding us. Another point, the light at Cumberland and Blue Hill Road is still off. I'm hoping that I miss it and that police officers are manning that intersection in peak traffic hours. This is what I hope. This is what I hope. But it's such a treacherous intersection, there should be officers there constantly when the light is off. And maybe you guys can partner with the RBDF, officers who are stationed at Government House. Maybe you can get an off-duty officer to fill in and man that spot. Somebody has to man it, though, because even when the lights are working, we have a traffic fatality on that road. Please, please. Okay, last point, and then we're going to get to it. Wells warns PM is not afraid to make hard decisions. Well, I would like to take up this challenge, dear Prime Minister, make the hard decision and restrict campaigning until August or September when the medical community feels more comfortable with the COVID numbers. What a wonderful example it would set for all of us in the attempt to get us to moderate our behavior. It's important to note in that article on the front page of The Guardian, on the bottom half, you should read it today, it's important to note that social gatherings are restricted. You're not allowed to have them in your homes. I think they're still supposed to be either less than 10 or less than 20. So make the hard decisions, Prime Minister. Your party, the PLP party, all other parties, stop campaigning until we get the COVID numbers under control. And here's another positive example. Mr. Chester Cooper today has announced that he has been donating his MP's salary to community efforts in Exuma. This is a great idea. Now, Mr. Cooper, I think, can afford to do that. So we must always be careful and not ask people to give more than they can afford to give. We also have to question whether we should continue to focus on charitable efforts versus structural economic reform. The fact that an MP would have to, right, that it warrants that type of donation suggests that we need a larger movement or a great shift in thinking around how we support the needy. Anyway, that was a whole lot of talking. Let me get to these couple texts. The caller on the line, we're going to go to a break, and I'm going to bring in my guest. My first text says, when is the ministry is going to paint the rest of the roundabouts? Dear Ministry of Works and subcontractors, right after y'all figure out why that hole still reappears on Soldier Road opposite Lowe's, when y'all finish figuring that out, and why there's so many water main breakages on the eastern foreshore, then we're going to go and paint them roundabouts. Erin, victimization, political and otherwise, is rife in our country. It is the one constant you can be sure of in the Bahamas. You write, Texter, we have a cultural issue, right? It's not just a political culture, it's a Bahamian culture. And we got to delve deep into it. Last text, Miss Greene, how are you? Too straight. I am good, Texter. I missed reading your text a couple times. I'm thankful that you still texting back. I hope the F&M is working hard on that too straight, because just being an incumbent is not enough. Even in government, you have to prove to us why we should re-elect you. This is a given, people. Anyway, caller, you're on the clock.
Hey, Erin, Greene, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, you mentioned the difference between the Omar case and the Great Commissioner case, correct?
Situations, because I still ain't sure if Mr. Archer had a case.
Well, the PRP didn't press press charges?
I'm not sure. Like I tell you, I say I don't really know. I just want to know how did I don't really know.
Well, in my opinion, because you could check it out, they didn't press charges for Omar.
Right, and somebody said to me, that's the real kernel, is that somebody didn't bring forth a complaint.
Right, and the real thing is my commissioner don't play.
Well,
He's a role.
I hear that.
So, characters still counts in his country.
I hear you.
And a man got a family.
Yeah,
I would do the same thing.
I hear you.
And think about it. God should press charges too.
Man, no.
Because he lie on God.
Listen, don't. I hear you. Don't bring God into it because all of us can get charges.
I'm just my opinion.
Yeah, I know. But everybody in New Providence and the family island can get a charge.
Oh, Lord, that's a serious thing.
Yes, it is.
I see what you said.
Ah.
But then again, everybody come public. This man come public on social media.
Yeah. And so
he should get a public punishment from God.
Boy, listen,
And he will get a public punishment from God.
You speaking above my pay grade, Pumpkin Eater, but what I take from what you're saying, and you may not have offered it, but I can take it, is that we all have to moderate our behavior. We all have to be aware of what it is we're saying and how it impacts everyone around us.
But two ladies attacked me on WhatsApp, and I told the ladies they need to go to their Bible. Bible never talk about unlove towards other person.
Yeah.
If whatever I do, what the Bible say, I forgive you and take your sin to the east to the west, right?
Yeah.
I really did. God never go around saying, tell this prophet and everybody goes destroy characters, destroy people. He say bring people in.
Thank you, Pumpkin Eater.
I forget in this kingdom.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Pumpkin Eater. You're absolutely right. Right? There is a message of faith that we all should look at. I want to send a special shout out to Derek Demerit that took a moment to defend Maria Daxon in the face of the onslaught. I'm sure it's a similar attempt, Pumpkin Eater, to disparage and demeanor. So to see one party member reaching out to another party member across the political divide and the political culture to support her and to demand that those who were attacking her stop. Right, Pumpkin Eater? That's the message in the Bible. Those are the things we need to import into our political culture. Arlington, when you ready? Well, let's take that call. Let's see what they're saying. And then we can go to the break after that. Caller, you're on the clock.
Good morning, Erin Greene. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Erin, what dawned upon me on Monday, right? I mean, Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
The COVID, vaccination, inoculation crew were off for 4 days.
Yeah.
Over the holiday, right?
Yeah.
So it tells me something, right? If the government is so serious about this COVID thing and they're saying about the numbers of persons, this and that and that and that, and when the vaccines reach out, they're going to be expeditious behind getting everyone vaccinated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how could the government take 4 days off or we could take holiday now? You can't be serious, eh?
Well, I take your point. I have some very serious critique for the COVID vaccination rollout plan. But
me too. But I mean,
what I was going to say is, this is a part of the political culture. We find is that ministries and departments work in silos, right? They don't really understand what the other hands or elements are doing or what is required of them to support that work, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, farming, the packing houses, they receive goods on a Tuesday. The boat should leave on a Friday after everything has been sorted and graded and packed to come to Nassau.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop the boat for a public holiday because you can't stop the vegetables from growing or aging for a public holiday.
Exactly.
And that's the point that I was going to make, is that we see generally in the function of the civil service and governance a breakdown that needs to be addressed because people are working hard in their various silos trying to get things done, but nothing comes to fruition because the overall system falls apart, right? And we need serious help with that. We need the University of the Bahamas to begin doing the research and getting us some policy papers and some strategies for shifting that culture in the civil service and in governance.
Hey, we need the University of the Bahamas, it's a good thing, but then presently, how long would it take the university? To be honest, the university is about to kick
Don't
in.
watch nothing, cousin. I gotta go to a break. But I can tell you what, maybe it'll be faster than BPL. Maybe. Anyway, you're listening to 96.9 FM. You're on the clock with Erin Greene. And when we come back from this break, we're talking with my special guest today, energy conservation expert, Deborah Deal. We'll be right back, Bahamas.
Hello, sir. Your credit card bill is due. Hello, sir. It's time for your monthly loan payment. Tired of creditors pounding at your door? Sign up for a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank and consolidate your debt into one low monthly payment. What's more, you will also earn interest on a built-in savings account. The pandemic has curbed many freedoms, but at Fidelity, our focus is to help regain your financial freedom. Visit a branch or speak to Fidelity Bank at 356-7764. COVID safety measures in place at all branches. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Have an outstanding real property tax bill? Take advantage of our Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. Bring your account to zero and receive a 50% discount on your outstanding tax and surcharge past 180 days. Or get a payment plan. Make a 25% deposit on your outstanding tax, receive a 100% waiver on the surcharge, and pay the difference within 36 months, interest-free. Contact the Department of Inland Revenue at 225-5778 or email us at rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs. Offer ends May 31st.
For the past 33 years, Great Commission Ministries has been defending the poor and hurting, feeding the hungry, and sheltering the homeless. We invite you to support our Live to Give program and make a difference in these challenging times. Become a donor by giving a one-time annual gift or a monthly donation of $50 or $100. Call Great Commission Ministries at 325-5801 for more details. Or visit our headquarters at 237 Wolf Road. Join Live to Give today. This public service announcement is proudly sponsored by this radio station.
Have an outstanding real property tax bill? Take advantage of our Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. Bring your account to zero and receive a 50% discount on your outstanding tax and surcharge past 180 days. Or get a payment plan. Make a 25% deposit on your outstanding tax, receive a 100% waiver on the surcharge, and pay the difference within 36 months, interest-free. Contact the Department of Inland Revenue at 225-5778 or email us at rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs. Offer ends May 31st.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The sun comes up with a burning glow, shines down on paradise below. I'm talking about the Bahamas, you know, our beautiful archipelago. Now go, brag about the beauty. Tell them we friendly. Oh, tell them we proud.
Good morning, Bahamas. Welcome back to 96.9 FM. You're on the clock with Erin Greene. And this show today is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. And today I'm going to talk briefly about the Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. Save on your real property tax. Bahamian property owners can now take advantage of waivers on their real property tax debt in one of two ways. You can bring your account to zero with 50% waiver on RPT tax and surcharge older than 180 days. A 10% waiver on current debt until March 31st, 2021. The account must be brought to a zero balance. Second step, or second option, payment plan. 25% payment on RPT balance, 100% waiver of surcharge, 36 months to pay balance, and the account must be kept up to date to maintain the contract. Also, foreigners can receive 100% waiver on surcharge if their account is paid in full by May 31st, 2021. If you need more help or would like more information, you can contact the Department of Inland Revenue at rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs, or you can call 225-5778. That's 225-5778. Also, real property tax forgiveness in 5 steps. 1. Confirm your outstanding real property tax amount. 2. Select payment option. A, bring account to zero, or B, use a payment plan for up to 36 months. 3, submit payments in person or online. 4, if you paid online, email your payment receipt to the Department of Inland Revenue. 5, receive updated tax certificate or receive payment plan agreement. That's real property tax forgiveness in 5 steps. For more information, contact RPT Forgive at bahamas.gov.bs or call 225-5778, and that's a toll-free number. We're going to repeat this information regularly. It is very, very important information, particularly since over the last 40 years, it's been clear that the Bahamas has used home ownership, the concept of home ownership, as a national cultural program to develop pride, a sense of citizenship, a sense of belonging, and a sense of community. So if you own property, if you want to own property, please stay tuned to this page, but also contact the Department of Inland Revenue. Anyway, Deborah Deal, good morning.
Good morning. It's so good to be here.
Yes, it's been a long time.
It has been a very, very, very long time. And just to let you know, I have 2 coloring books in my truck. This weekend, we decided it was going to be the social distance, fun with the kids. So on Saturday, we went to the Bonefish Pond, the park, the national park, and as we were coming in, Eric Carey and his wife were leaving.
Nice.
And then on Monday, we went to the primeval forest. And we went with the kids, and there was all these contests and games and stuff, and they won coloring books. So I was saying to them, one's 4 and one's 10, I want a coloring book because I like to color outside the lines. And they're going, oh, no, you can't color outside the lines. The teacher says. I said, no, you have to color outside the line. I'm getting my own book then, and I'm going to color outside the lines because that's what I want to do. I don't want to be like everybody else.
Yeah. This time I was going to start the show about how little children know how to drive before they get, because they color within the line. But that's great. That's great. And we have to allow kids to color outside of the lines.
That's what I was trying to get to them so that they could understand that, it's not punishable by death.
Right. And there are times when you are free to go outside the lines, and there are times when it's important.
In life, there's a lot of times when you have to go outside the lines. But we really wanted to do something where we weren't, stuck on a beach with everybody else, and we really wanted to abide by the Prime Minister's rules and regulations, and we did a good job, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And, I keep saying to people, look, if you could afford to do something right, that's fun and comfortable and socially distant.
Well, these things are free.
Do it. The parks are free. Look at that, the parks are free, people.
So what would be the reason not to go? Why shouldn't you why shouldn't you take your kids to things like this on occasion?
And you know what it is? People say energy conservation is the reason. As a parent, I got to conserve my energy. Because I got to go to work.
Yes, there are many kinds of energy. You're absolutely right. Yes.
And we find that. So listen, I did have one intro, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the different perspectives that people have on natural resources, right? Using the BPC sort of example. Because some people are saying, our natural resources are for Bahamians' benefit exclusively.
Well, you're absolutely right. They are. Every government of every country owns the natural resources that are below the sea, below the land, that are in the sea, in their territory, and in the air above. Those are the spaces that belong to the country. So yes, I read your intro about yesterday talking about the government has a legal right to drill even though they don't want to, but they also have a moral obligation to us as Bahamians. How do we want our future to look? When you think about, let's just talk about natural resources. All right, so we have 2 natural resources that until the end of time it will be abundant, and we'll never do any destruction to anything else for us to have, retain, and do something with these. One is being sun, and the other is being salt. We call it mining of salt, but we don't. We flood, and then we reap we reap the salt from that. So these are two things that we have that will not do any damage to anything else in this country by us pushing to make sure that we use solar for energy and that we take salt and we use that for the multiple things that salt can be used for. Other things that we have, now those are renewable. Other things that we have are not as renewable.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so Nassau has a ridge going from one end of it all the way through to the eastern end,
Yeah.
a ridge, and that is a natural ridge. And the natural ridge is one of our mechanisms for defense for hurricanes, as is our reefs, right? So why are we cutting them down?
Right.
Why do we keep cutting the space between? I can understand cutting a path through, like where Travelers Rest is. There's a path through to get through instead of having to drive all the way around, and I can see that. But why do we have to keep digging and digging and digging and digging? Why is it so important to take that fill or whatever it is and sell it to somebody else? We need that because the main thing that we have in the Bahamas that we have to deal with from June until November every year for the rest of our lives and the future are hurricanes. So why would we not spend every time we do something, why would we not consider how will this affect us in hurricane season? And we don't do that.
Well, listen, we don't do it with anything. You know, last month was March, International Women's Month, and one of the biggest questions on the table is the government mainstreaming gender in its policy creation, in its function of government? Do you, in every space, have you considered the implication of gender on, you know, what it is you're doing or the dynamics in the spaces work in? Every department, every unit should mainstream hurricane preparedness and impact.
Well, yes, because I think when a lot of people hear the word gender, the first thing that they think of is, well, so, and this is honestly what they think, so men and women, so what's the difference? Well, you know, the difference is that if you look at how many children in this country are born out of wedlock and how many single mothers there are dealing with children, they become the vulnerable group of persons in this country because they must somehow work and have somebody take care of their kids and have a place to live, protect their kids during hurricane, get their kids to school. So, you know what, so I think a lot of people think, oh, well, what's the difference? Well, you know what, you have to consider who is the most vulnerable, right? So when a hurricane happens, and let's say that some people have their homes that they can live in, and some people are renters, so they would need to go to a hurricane shelter. We need to think about the vulnerable, the children, the elderly, the women, the persons that are taken care of. So these are the women are the ones that we need to think about. How can we engage women more in different fields, in being entrepreneurs, understanding that a job and a salary is not the same as owning your own business, when you could actually stay home and do your whatever it is that you decide you're going to do and take care of your children at the same time, so you are raising them and not somebody else. These are things that we need to push, and thank God for the small to medium business thing that Davinia Blair is doing, because that has really amplified the amount of women that have actually gone. No, men are getting grants and doing stuff as well, but I'm just saying so many women have actually decided that this is it. And we've learned through COVID, when the entire world had the pause button, that there's nothing that we can't do. We don't have to go in somewhere else to actually make money. We don't have to be at a desk somewhere else when we could be at our own desk, which could be the kitchen counter, it could be a picnic table outside. We've learned that. We need to take the lessons that we've learned in the last year and incorporate them into our future, and not just take it as in, oh, well, now we can get back to normal. No, normal is different.
Yeah.
Normal is now different. We have shown that normal is different. And, you know, when you're not driving and you're not doing all of this stuff, you're using less fossil fuels.
Yes.
You know, we've signed on to the Paris Agreement then, and we have decided and we have agreed that we would make sure that
So
we keep...
one second, the Paris Agreement. That's not to have more Hilton hotels in the Bahamas.
No.
You all signed an agreement with Paris Hilton?
Yeah, we did. And we agreed that she is not going to let our temperature rise more than 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, right? And how we do that. And when I say that out loud, I keep thinking, so in other words, if we've agreed that we are going to make sure this doesn't happen, then we are the ones who are making it happen now. So we as the human beings have to start thinking about what are we doing in our climate? What are we doing in our environment? How are we living where we are ruining our environment, right?
Yeah.
So, but we've signed the agreement that, by 2030 that we would reduce our energy consumption and we would do alternative energy 30%. So we need to really start thinking about our energy and our fossil fuel use, whether it's putting asphalt shingles on our roof that are made out of fossil fuels that end up in the trash, that the fossil fuels from our cars and planes and boats, you can look at people's roofs and see the black on them, and what's that from? That's carbon.
Yeah.
And that carbon that's on your roof that you get pressure cleaned off, that goes into our water table, it also goes into our oceans and is killing our reefs. And that's another one of our defenses for hurricanes is our natural reefs, but we're not taking care of them.
Systems,
yes,
yeah.
but we're not taking care of
Deborah,
them.
you're a contractor, right?
I am.
I took a trip into Suriname over 10 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, and we went into a maroon village in the interior of Suriname. And they explained to us how they build their huts, their houses, and they use thatch roofing.
Right.
Right now, just before we came, there had been a big storm, and so I was like, "Hey, I come from a hurricane zone. How is this holding up?" And so what they said was, "Listen, with a properly constructed thatch roof, you get 3 to 4 years of no leakage and minimal damage. We change them after 4 years max, and then if there's a massive storm coming through, people move to a designated shelter area."
Right.
So I want to ask you: is that thatch roof structure suitable for our zone if we can guarantee that people in those structures have to move to a hurricane shelter?
We would actually have to grow whatever it is to make the thatch, number one. And number two, we would have to, what was I going to say? I'm still blonde. I didn't dye my hair over the holidays. So what was the other thing? I don't think it would last as long as it would because, we have, again, I don't know what their weather is like, but we have, intense rain and we have intense heat.
And they don't have the salt.
And we've got termites, and we've got, I really would not go with something like that. But, if you look at English countrysides and Scottish countrysides, that's what they use as well.
I was in Zambia.
Right.
And that's what they use also, right? These massive, when I say massive, thick, natural material thatching. We
need our roofing systems need to be energy efficient.
Okay.
They need to give us insulation. Like you had mentioned in your notes to me that, why aren't people using containers?
And tiny homes.
Right, yeah, containers. The main reason with the containers is that a lot of people don't realize how much you have to insulate a container to actually physically live in it, and then ventilation as well. That's why, people will get stuck in a container and die because, of that kind of thing. And trailers as well, they're not good for hurricanes, that kind of thing. But I don't know if tiny homes, a government, I don't want to call it a government home, a financially assisted home in this country starts at about 700 square feet and goes 700, 900, and maybe 1,000. So the homes are very small. And, in the old days, I was thinking about this last night after I read your notes. If you travel to Long Island, Exuma, Eleuthera, and you see the ruins of buildings, the kitchen is out in another area.
Yeah.
Because that would create the heat, right? And then the building itself would have very, very thick stone walls, whether they were rubble walls that were put together or whatever, because that would keep the inside cool. So, we need to really think about, especially if we want to reduce our energy consumption and our energy costs, we need to make sure that things are insulated as well as hurricane impact
But listen,
proof.
Debbie, when you said that, the kitchen in another space, like outside of the home, right? And it may have walls, but it's outside of the home.
Right.
To reduce energy consumption, right? Because now I have to,
Imagine air conditioning a house and you're air conditioning your kitchen. What if you're somebody who bakes 3 or 4 loaves of bread a day?
I know.
yeah.
This is my life.
Yeah.
But imagine now, I'm not just going to get up and sort of take 4 or 5 or 10 steps to the kitchen to get a snack late at night. If the kitchen is outside the door and in the yard,
So
right?
we'll lose weight.
Right,
Awesome.
because we right, our relationship to food and our consumption patterns also have to
yes,
change,
we eat.
right?
We eat because we're bored.
Right.
To be honest, most of
and
us
it's
do.
nearby, and
Yes.
and the commercials, right? The
Yes.
commercials ignite
Yes,
our
they-
desire.
Yes, they make everything look so lovely until you have to try to push yourself into your old jeans, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I got a text here, Debbie. It says, "Hi, Debbie. Debbie is correct. I believe digging has Grand Bahama vulnerable to hurricanes. Too much man-made canals."
Well, that's what you and I were talking about before the show. I was talking about, things, whenever you do something with a natural resource, you have to understand what are the implications. Now, if you are cutting down a hill or digging a huge area because you need that fill or you want to sell that to another country, you can't regrow that hill and you can't regrow that hole. So you would actually have to fill it with something or build it again. Why are we doing those kind of things? That to me makes absolutely no sense because, again, the main thing that we as Bahamians have to remember as we live in a hurricane belt, and we need to make sure that we are protected from May until November. And in my estimation, every building that is built, whether it's an individual home or whether it's a business or whatever, should be a hurricane shelter. Because our building code is geared for that. We need to ensure that it's actually happening, and we need to stop building because it's inexpensive. And I'm going to give an example. There's a building being built in Blair. I watched the floor go, and I thought, oh my gosh, it was just a mess. They were not there. They didn't use a tamp. They didn't use any kind of a screed on it, so the concrete is not done the way it's supposed to be done. And then they've done a wood frame building, which is, fine, but I did not see any vapor barrier between the wood and the concrete been put down. And then what they've done now is they've just nailed, not screwed, plywood on the outside of it, and it's not treated plywood. So this is what happens when you don't really know and the government isn't insistent on certain things. So it's going to be like going to the dentist, and the dentist says, I got good news and bad news. Your teeth are awesome, but your gums are no good. So the gums of that house within 5 years are going to be no good. The termites love plywood because of the glue, right? So there's no vapor barrier between the structure that they put on and the plywood, none between the structure and the concrete. So there's no moisture barrier. That house is going to be full of mold and mildew forever.
That reminds me of the story about the shoes, right? The man works hard, but he can't afford to buy the best shoes available to him. So he saves a little money, and every 3 months he got to buy a new pair of shoes. If he had been able to save the money to buy the proper pair of shoes, he could have had those shoes for 3 years.
Correct.
Right?
And another thing is, not everyone needs or wants to be a homeowner. A lot of people want to actually be able to rent comfortably without feeling intimidated that by not being a homeowner, they're not being the true Bahamian that they should be. Because what happens is a lot of people who will say, yes, okay, well, we'll get a house, and you can see the people that should not have, the ones who never get to do landscaping, who never do maintenance, because they just barely have enough to make sure that mortgage is paid.
Right.
And oftentimes in 5 years' time, that house is empty because they've had to lose it. Let somebody else be the landlord and take care of their property. Our house, we borrowed $160,000. It took us 25 years to pay, and it ended up costing us over $600,000. That is not a wise decision.
Hold on, 160,000
Over 25 years
ended up
was
being-
over $600,000. That is not a wise decision.
I'm trying to be contractor, registrar of Chickchanis. I'm trying to be registrar of Chickchanis. I need to be a bank. That's what I need to do. I need to be a bank.
Our mortgage was at 10% interest. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
And what I identified in what you're saying is a deeper cultural problem, right? So we talk
Yes.
about energy consumption, but let me say this. Dear Bahamian parents, and even especially y'all parents who are now my age, this cultural practice of disciplining your kids and setting the authoritarian or authoritative boundary by telling them, if you is man, get your own house. If you want to do that thing, get your own house. The ability to owning a house is not the mark of...
That stress is not necessary for anybody.
And it's not the mark of maturity.
And then what they do is, if you are going to live in, we don't really have many of them here, but like an apartment building or a townhouse complex, then there's maintenance fees on a monthly basis that you have to pay. If you realize that this is where we are and this is where we'd like to be, but to get there, if we now decide to buy this house or build this house, it's going to take us a lot longer. And how are we going to deal with our children with the university? You have to think the whole thing out. Like when you're cutting down that hill, you have to think the whole thing out. The one at East Street now keeps getting cut down more and more and more. Eventually, it's just going to be a plain, and when a hurricane comes through, that's going to be just a nice avenue for that hurricane to go and destroy everything. You have to think the long range. And what do I really want to accomplish? And do I really want to put people under the pressure where they really believe that they have to, no matter what, if they want to be a true Bahamian, have a house?
And what are we as a society doing? Because I see this all as sort of an energy conservation discussion, right? People are wasting money unnecessarily on housing when structures already exist, right? We are wasting money by not understanding the culture of maintenance required to keep homes, right?
And you've even seen government buildings that have been destroyed because there's no budget. No one puts in the budget the maintenance of a building, and you have to.
From the top straight down to the bottom, this culture is evident. And so, for me, we got to get into this space and engage the culture as well as the industry practices to create a shift that'll help us see where we're losing money endlessly, right, or needlessly.
Right. Right. Well, energy, like you and I have talked before we got onto the show, is okay. So now BPL have reduced the fuel surcharge down to 10 cents, right? So our bills are much lower, right?
Yeah.
But being much lower, they could be a lot lower if we were actually watching, again, what we're doing and making sure that we don't buy us an air conditioner that is a 13 SEER. I put a 20 SEER. Now, I went without air conditioning for 12 years, by the way, but I put a 20 SEER central air system in my house, and it was activated July 21st during COVID.
20th, yeah.
Yeah, and my electricity bill was like about $187 a month or something before that. And with the fuel surcharge going down to 10 cents, my electricity bill went down to like $160 a month with the air conditioning.
Okay.
With the air conditioning, because a higher SEER does not use as much power.
Right. So, Debbie, this is what I want to ask you.
Even keeping the temperature at 75 degrees is able to...
Is there a contractors guild, right? Like, is there a body of contractors that meet regularly? Do they publish information like this? And then I know that you are the chair of the Energy and Environment Committee at the Chamber of Commerce, right?
Correct.
Is there a space in the chamber where you collect or collate or put together information like this that interested people could come and access it?
Well,
because that thing about the AC,
Right. Well, truthfully, Yes and no. Yes and no. First of all, because there is an Energy and Environment Committee with the Chamber of Commerce, because a lot of people don't think, well, why would you have that when it's a Chamber of Commerce? Well, you know what? To do business, you need to keep your costs down. So you have to learn how to conserve your energy, how to use it in a proper way. Are you going to go solar? Are you going to stick with fossil fuels, right?
Yeah.
So we have to learn all of these things. And the environment, you have to make sure that your environment is being protected for whatever business you happen to do. But we started, IDB gave us a grant to do 12 videos. And we did those. And you can go on YouTube and you go to the BCCEC, which are the initials for the Chamber of Commerce.
All right, so it's the
Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation. So
Confederation, okay.
Right. So BCCEC, Green Initiative, and the 12 videos pop up. And they talk about everything about the kind of refrigerator you should get, like the amount of amps it is. Don't buy anything over 5 or 6 amps. A 10-amp refrigerator is probably only sold outside of the country that it's made in because it pulls too much energy. Talks about air conditioning, talks about ghost thieves, things that steal your energy that you don't even realize that you're doing. You know, like how many people have phone chargers plugged in everywhere in their house, and then when they just unplug the phone, but they leave the charger in.
I'm that how many people?
Right, you know.
Yeah.
And so these are the kind of things that it goes into, and it talks about changing your light bulbs to LED. Now, my church and PCC changed the light bulbs. We did an Adopt a Light Bulb program, and their electricity bill went from $7,000 to $2,000. So they saved $60,000 a year on their energy bill just by switching out the light bulbs. And we're able to, after a year and a half, be able to pay off the mortgage. So these are things these are true things. These are things that are backed up with science. It's not somebody like, oh, we just sat around a table and said, well, what could we throw at these people, you know, just so that they... No, these are real things. And people come to me on a regular basis and say, Debbie, you'll never guess what happened. You'll never guess what my bill is. You can't believe. And actually, our country also signed on to the Minamata Convention last year. And the Minamata Convention is with regard to mercury. And mercury is in nature, but it's also things that we actually contribute to, right?
Okay.
Like mercury is in skin lightening for your skin, right? So it's poisonous, right?
Yeah.
You can get cancer. You can get it's also in many different things. So you can get brain cancer. There's all kinds of things that you can get from it. So trying to ban it, like trying to find another way, if you must lighten your skin, to do it without mercury that is poison and will kill you. And another thing is CFLs, compact fluorescent light bulbs, the curly ones, right?
Okay.
So what I did is, as our committee sent a letter to the Department of Protection and Planning to ask them if they would join forces with the chamber and with our committee to ban CFLs. Okay. Doing it the same way we did with the plastics ban, because there is an alternative, LED, and LED bulbs are the same price, if not cheaper, than compact fluorescents these days. And then we also want to do a cradle to grave. So if you are a person that brings in a product that is hazardous or toxic, right, then you must also take the used product later. I'll use a paint store. It's the easiest example. Paint thinner. So you have half a bottle left over. You don't know what to store it. You don't want to put it in the garbage. You just take it to your local paint place.
And they're responsible for storage or return to the...
Right. Well, they would have a separate waste management for toxic and hazardous, which you have to have anyways, right?
Awesome.
Right. And it's all part of your business license. You have to have these things to get your business license and show that you've actually done it. So it's cradle to grave. And that way... the businesses can actually make money by doing this, because what you do is you do like a lost leader. You put where you're going to have people drop it to the back of the store. So they have to walk to the back of the store to get there. And dimes to donuts, they're going to walk out with stuff. I mean, that's just the way it is. And any store that sells it should accept it. You know, battery and tire already take tires from anybody and batteries from anybody, and they send them away and they recycle them. So that's...
It's possible.
Right. So these are the things that we want to do, because these are so important to our country and the health of our nation.
All right. Texter said quickly, what type of bulbs are those which save energy?
The LED.
And we're getting rid of the?
CFLs.
Which is the curly...
Right, the compact fluorescent. Okay. They are full of mercury. So when a bulb breaks, the mercury just drops. So it'll drop on your feet, it'll get on your hands. You cannot collect it. The process to collect mercury after it's out of the bulb, once it's in the bulb, it's not poison.
But if it breaks,
Right.
it's finished.
And as a contractor, over the years, I have seen with doing renovations and demolition that light bulbs come out and they get thrown into a dumpster and that goes into the landfill. So you can imagine our water is full of mercury. No wonder we have cancer.
Yeah, such high rates of it.
Such high rates of cancer. Yes.
Debbie, we are out of time. I didn't get a chance. Well, and we could segue in right into it because I know you go to NPCC and I
Yes.
know they have a recycling
We
program.
do, and we now do flares and batteries as well.
Awesome, but I'm going to have you back in because
Okay.
I'm currently trying to figure out why are there so many beer bottles on the road and what are we going to do with them and why aren't we using them to bottle tomatoes?
Well, you know what? Remember Strawberry, who lived in Johnson Road? That's how he made his. He did the tomatoes and the what's it called? Old
Kappa.
sour. The
Oh,
old
yeah, yeah,
sour.
yeah, yeah.
That's what he does.
Boy, look here. All of this industry at a halt because we don't have the tools or the systems in place to allow people to do what they traditionally did to support themselves.
Right.
But listen, look at what you see when you take a look at the environment around you.
Absolutely.
Debbie Deal, thank you
Yes.
for joining me
Oh,
again.
I'm glad you.
It's
you
been my
called me.
pleasure. I'm
Yes.
going to have you back because we can talk about these recycling programs.
We do.
And there's plenty other things we need to
Yes.
talk about.
Yes.
Bahamas, enjoy this day. Be proud to be a Bahamian, right?
Absolutely.
Not because of you, but because of where God put you.
Absolutely. This is the best country in the world.
Yes, indeed. You're tuned into 96.9 FM. You've been On the Clock with Erin Greene and my guest today, Deborah Deal. And coming up next is Levan Miller, Unleashed at 11 a.m.
To be a Bahamian, proud to be a Bahamian, proud to be a Bahamian, yes.